Are you in a big transition, or you feel stuck and disconnected, or you're unsure of your next step, but you're certain what you're doing isn't it? Maybe you're ready to rewrite your identity or break generational patterns, or just feel safe in your body and clear in your direction. And you're craving that authenticity and that alignment, and you're ready to stop living on autopilot and design a life that expands you. Welcome to Your Inner Landscape. My name's Jackie, and this podcast marks the beginning of a very new chapter for me. And it's a space where we slow down and become aware of what's really happening in our inner landscape, in our internal world. And for me, as I go deeper, this is something that's really been blossoming through in time to shed the layer. So if you've known me, you've probably known me as a gut health practitioner, or Gut Health Jack, as this podcast was called. So this shift may feel a little different. But the truth is, the deeper that I go into my own work and continue to work with clients and people on their health and their goals, the more that I see is what people need. It's not more information. It's learning to regulate their emotions. It's emotional clarity and nervous system safety. It's subconscious healing and really understanding our internal patterns. It's a return to what is true for the individual. So Your Inner Landscape is a place where we explore what is underneath the burnout, what is underneath the confusion or the stress or the misalignment. What is going on with relationship dynamics, and what can we learn from that? What is underneath the symptoms, the patterns? And here we're going to talk about how to design your life from the inside out. So today I'm sharing the 6 pillars that support any pivot or any transition, or if you want to change your life. This is a really good structure to go by. And these are the same pillars that guided me into this next expression of my work and life. And they're also the foundation of the Design Your Life process, which is a program that I have coming up in the new year. So welcome to Your Inner Landscape, this pivot, this shift, and this new format feels so much more expressive and expansive for me. For a long time, I boxed myself in to just gut health or just testing or just minerals. While I love those things and they have so much validity, I am so much more multidimensional than that. My inner landscape, it includes, yes, the minerals, yes, the mindset, the nervous system work, nature, plants, intuition, subconscious healing, and things like gut health and lab testing. All of it. And that's what this podcast is going to be. It's an integration, a space where we can explore the full dynamic, the full inner landscape that shapes the life that we are all designing. So let's dive in. The first pillar is understanding that clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from regulating your nervous system and calming down into a state of peace. So we have to really understand what's going on and pause before we make any other moves. So think about when you've reacted in the past, when it was just from a place of reactivity and from your nervous system being revved up, rather than if you were to sit and pause, let everything digest, let everything settle, and then make a move. Before you can change anything in your life, you need to have awareness. And you can't have awareness when you're in survival mode. And this is where in my clinical work, it was just like we would jump to the protocols and the supplements and the testing, but it was like, hey, we got to talk about the nervous system, because yes, this is helpful to know that you have low akkermansia and you have H. pylori and you have insulin resistance, but the common thread of all of this is our nervous system. And most people are trying to pivot while they are in a dysregulated state, which creates this urgency or panic or doubt or confusion. And I fully believe that the very first step in any transition is calming the nervous system down enough to actually hear yourself and hear what you're making this mean, right? And I've lived this. Like when I'm in a urgent, hustly, panic energy, nothing makes sense and everything feels confusing. And that's a big part of kind of my story, where in my gut health, it got to a place of, better, maybe 85% better, but I couldn't fully relax my nervous system. And as I dug deeper and deeper, this was because I didn't have tools and resources to actually help me regulate my nervous system. And also I had deep subconscious patterns where it was like I had to be on guard. Any child of an alcoholic, or anyone who's grown up with alcohol or just chaotic relationships in their childhood, no blame on anyone, but it's just, that's how it is. When we grow up as a child of an alcoholic, our nervous system is dysregulated. And so no matter how many protocols, no matter how many times they're tried to get rid of H. pylori or candida or this or that, like sometimes, yes, it would move the needle. But at the end of the day, the really big thing that moved the needle is when I closed down the eyes and went into the subconscious and worked on my nervous system. So this is number one, right? We always just pause first. And there's a lot we can do with the nervous system in the moment, right? You might have to actually move the energy to help the anger settle, or you might have to just go cry and journal if you're dealing with a more deactivated emotion. And then deeper down in my trainings, my programs, one-on-one work, we can talk about how you actually want to clear the blocks that might be keeping you on edge, which is in one of the following pillars. But at first, we just have to pause. We just have to pause and see what's going on. Why are we overthinking? Why are we catastrophizing? Why do we want to burn everything down? Or why do we feel so pressured to decide immediately? Or why are we sitting there scrolling and we can't stop? Or why are we just feel like we're shutting down or spiraling or going through these continuous loops? Why are we comparing ourselves to others or feeling behind? Why are we interpreting everything through fear? And so if you're experiencing any of this, you're not broken. It's just like, let's just help you calm down. There's probably some dysregulation in your nervous system happening. This really helps to just pause, and then we can move on to the next phase. And I love to pause. So the first step is pause and see what we're making this mean. Am I making this mean that I'm failing? Am I making this mean that I have to decide right now? Am I making this mean that I am not enough, or I'm behind, or I'm alone? You can't design a new life if you're interpreting everything through fear. And you can't make aligned decisions from urgency. And it's super duper hard to hear your intuition and your deepest authentic self when you're in survival brain, when you're activated from a threat state. So awareness and regulation really help us create the environment for clarity. So this is why awareness and regulation are the first step in this design your life process. It's not the action, it's not the planning, it's not the goal setting. So the first step is to just pause. And yes, there's tools we can do to support this from a physical level. We can eat healthy amounts of protein, fats, and carbs. Yes, we can ditch the refined sugars. Those really do help regulate our nervous system. But a lot of us too, we just need to pause and stop and breathe and ask, what am I making this mean? And one of the classic ways to do it, you do a double inhale and then sigh. So it's like, right? We can actually use our breath. And that's actually, you can probably hear when someone's really crying and they go, that's how we say, oh my gosh, there's too much going on in our nervous system. We need to calm ourselves down. So whatever works for you, sometimes people need to go for a walk. Sometimes people journal. Just time alone can really help us calm down and regulate our nervous system. Then we can start getting really clear on our values and our authenticity, which is the next pillar, right? We need to figure out what is actually important to us. So your values are your compass, and I like to call it like your values filter, and they tell you what actually is true to you. So after your nervous system feels calm and you actually pause and take the time to regulate your nervous system, we really want to ask, what really matters to you. Like, what would you do if everyone disappeared and like that was, the week to yourself? What would you spend your time doing? We can also ask, what did you like doing as a kid? What comes really naturally to you? What brings you joy? So it's really important for us to slow down and ask specific questions to figure out what you want to filter everything through. So for example, for me, nature is a huge core pillar for me because it encompasses my passion for the garden, for herbalism, for the smell of flowers, for using plants that I grow in my garden, for cooking and for food. And I have a real spiritual connection with nature. And that's really important for me. Everything I do has to have some component where that is alive. Then I have exploration and adventure. Without those things, I feel very dead inside. So I need to have that adventure and exploration. Then I have self-care. This is everything from just connecting what is really important to me, like my spirituality and the way that I eat that makes me feel good, and taking care of my gut health and drinking clean water and doing the things that I deep down know that nourish and support me. Even things like getting a massage or working on going to the gym, like those things, self-care is really core for me. And then I have expression. So it's really important for me to have a voice in this world and express through whether it's the podcast or teaching or just sharing my gifts with the world. Without that, I feel a little bit empty. And the last one is community. It's important for me to connect with the people around me, especially like-minded people. So community is a core value for me because, again, if I don't have that, I feel like something's missing. So there's some questions you can ask to figure out what your core values are. Things like, when do you feel most like yourself? Like, when do you feel it's super easy to express yourself? You're laughing, you're in full joy mode. You can ask, what makes you feel alive in your body? What feels good? And then you can ask things like, what drains your energy? You can see what that's taking away from you. You can kind of look at this from the negative side and the positive side, right? Your values should give you energy. If something's draining you, there's some misalignment. Then, what do you crave most in your life? What do you crave more of? Often your cravings are just like unexpressed or unmet needs or values. What did you need as a child that you still need now? So things like safety or play or freedom or adventure, connection or being seen. What would you choose if no one had an opinion about your life? Like if nobody ever questioned, said anything, there was no fear of judgment. What would you choose if no one had an opinion about your life? And what do you admire in other people? This is a really great one. So if you're ever jealous of somebody, instead of just being like, ugh, and dismissing it, say, wait, pause, like go back. What is it that I see in them that I could do or have? So what do you admire in other people? And where do you see inspiration and why? What do you avoid at all costs? Because sometimes avoidances actually show us what is violating our values. So give you insight of like, okay, what's the opposite of that? What are you avoiding and why? Then, when in your life did you feel the most aligned? When do you feel the most alive? When did you feel just fired up? What was present? Where were you? What were you doing? This can really reveal your natural blueprint. And we can also ask, what are you willing to protect, even if life gets hard? And that's where, for me, the nature one comes in. I'm like, the bees and the clean water and, the gardens and the soil, that is so key for me. I'll do anything to fight and defend and to stand up for that. This is a non-negotiable. So we can really find our values just through doing some questioning. And what I do is I actually write these, and I have my clients do this. I have them finish and answer these questions and then put them into ChatGPT and say, hey, is there a similar pattern you're seeing? And so it can help you kind of distill it down, because I like to have 4 to 5 core values. Values aren't what we think we should do, right? Or like, oh, I think this is a good one. It's like, no. They're core things for you. How do you spend your energy? What makes you feel good? What excites you? What makes you feel in alignment? What makes you smile? Is it freedom? Is it creativity? Is it depth? Is it expression? Right? So when you live out of alignment with your values, you often feel stuck and exhausted and resentful and confused and burnt out and disconnected. Or a lot of people just explain it as I just feel off and I just don't know why. And so most people think they need a new plan or a new thing or a new protocol, but what they actually need is just to pause, get present, check in with their values, and see where they're out of alignment. And something that I really learned, like one of my deepest values would be depth. And that in me is self-care, because that's something really is important to me. But when I was doing, gut health stuff, it felt a bit superficial. At first it felt deep. Like when I first got into it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. We're going underneath the surface. We're looking underneath the hood. And I love that. But when I realized that there was more to it and I could go even deeper, it's kind of like I grew out of that. So now, yes, I bring that into my awareness when I'm helping and guiding people, but like we can't just stop there, right? I love helping people, but I don't value being stuck in protocols. I value meaning and clarity and expression and connection to nature and really understanding our emotions. So when I reconnected with my values, and I actually really learned this when I was launching Mind Gut Reset, and it was kind of like a flop, it's because I realized that was pretty surface level and that doesn't align with what I want to do in my values. So when I really reconnected to my values, I really started to understand that there was a pivot that was needed and was quite obvious, right? So our values act like a filter where every decision, every desire, and every direction can pass through. And sometimes we don't totally understand what our values are unless we try something, right? So for me, I really thought that I wanted to teach a foundational health course. But when I put it out there, I kind of realized like, oh, wait, this is like, I don't want to teach the surface stuff. I want to go deep. I want to create a new program called Design Your Life where we actually learn how to go into your inner landscape. So when we're talking with this second pillar, we want to ask, does this align with what matters most to me? Does this drain me or support my energy? Does this help me and help me move forward to more of who I am? And this one is so good. So does this reflect my truth or my fear? And we're going to talk about this more, where it's like, are your desires coming from truly what you want, or is it from something you think you should do, or is it from a fear? So when we ask, does this reflect my truth, or does this help me become more of who I am, or does this drain or support my energy? Right? If it's a no, it's not your path. And if it's yes, it's aligned. And we can find your values within that. And this is why in my Design Your Life program, we spend a full week just getting clear on our values, because they become the foundation where everything else can filter through. So you can think, what mattered most to you 5 years ago? What matters most to you now? Where in your life do you feel most like yourself? Where do you feel like a big energy leak? And I love this. If no one else cared, if there was no other opinions, what would you choose to do? So once you know what matters to you, then you're ready to ask, what do you want? And this is where the next pillar comes in, pillar 3. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What are your desires? What are your manifestations? So before we really get into the specifics of the third pillar I want us to zoom out for a second and just kind of take note of what we're doing. We're basically helping the subconscious mind have direction, because so much of our mind is driven by our unconscious that we have to actually give it direction and plant seeds in the brain so that we know where we are headed. And our desires, they reveal our direction. It's like you need to give your map a GPS address so it can take you there. Same thing with all of this stuff. Your values, your direction, calming your nervous system, this all helps us to basically plant a GPS in our brain so that it can start hunting for it and finding it and getting there. If you don't know what you want, we're never going to get there. So pillar number 3 is just defining your desires. Name what you want, big and small. So once your nervous system is regulated and your values are clear, and it's important to note too, everything can always change. How you regulate your nervous system, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel nourished, and also your values. We can shift and change our values over time. So nothing has to be set in stone. Everything, is fluid and is open to change and shift in the future. So once your nervous system is regulated and your value levels are clear, the next step, the third pillar, is deciding what you actually want. And most people kind of like skirt around this. Even I notice I do. I'm like, God, I still got to write down what I want. So most people skip this step or do it just in a surface level way, or they pick up, desires based on what everyone else is doing, or the pressure or comparison, or, old patterns or old identities, or even stuff that you think your family expects, or we just are very more influenced than we think we are. And until we start tapping into our unconscious mind, it's really easy for us to just kind of get blown around by the wind. So it's really important for us to just do this work so we can pause and just see, what we can do to change our life. And in Design Your Life, this is the moment where everything clicks, when your desires finally align with your values instead of fear. This is where things start to pick up speed. And I'm just going to pause and return back to what I just said. This is the moment that everything clicks. And this is why we took the time to do pillar 1 and 2, because it's really important that your desires and your goals and your manifestations and your dreams, they align with your core values. Things aren't going to fall into place if you're trying to pursue something that doesn't align with your deepest truth. So our dreams and our desires, they aren't just like random, right? They show us where our soul wants to go, where our deeper meaning is, where we'll find fulfillment, where we find purpose, where we find the aligned, like-minded people. It shows us where, we're ready to expand and what needs expression. It helps us to, these desires lead us to our beautiful expression that each one of us contains. Now is where we define our big and small desires. So a small desire could be something like, I find the perfect journal. I'm looking for a journal right now, and I'm really specific about the journals in the paper. I found, the shoes that I wanted on discount. I'm calling it a longboard. What else do I want? I want some lemon trees for my garden. I want to find money on the street. So we can use these small desires to actually help us build our trust muscle. And then bigger desires would be specific career or relationship or a house or a home or a community with, spiritual like-minded people. It could be a specific offer that you're launching. It could be a baby, or you want to move it to a different country. So we want you to just identify what specifically you want. And once you have that, we ask, do these filter well through your values filter? Right? So do these things that you want align with your values? So we want to put our desires and our dreams through the values filter. Check in, does it bring me nature? Does it help me explore? Does it tap in and nourish my body and give me self-care? Does it bring expression to my life? And is it helping me build community? These are my value filters right now. And so I'm going to ask, do they fit through this my values filter? Yes or no, and then we can adapt and change if we need to. Because a lot of times we're doing things that we think we should do, where we want to be doing things because they're coming from a soul level, and that's more aligned, right? We want to create aligned desires. And then we ask, so there's two things we ask. We ask, does this filter well through the filter, the values filter, and do they fit a criteria of just like a healthy, clean goal? It's stated in the positive, it's specific in detail, right? Instead of saying, I want more money, you can say, I earn $5,000 a month doing work that lights me up. it has sensory evidence. So you can tap into it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. Once the goal is done, right? Instead of like, I want to be more confident, it's I speak clearly, my chest feels open, and I make eye contact when I talk. So you could actually kind of know when you get there. How do you know if you're really confident, right? We need to make that a little bit more specific, and we can do that through sensory evidence. And then we want to make sure it's it relies on you, not someone else, right? I want to create my goals for me, not other people. And also, like, we don't want to go like, my partner supports me more. It's like, no, wait, that's not me. I can't change other people. It needs to be self-initiated. So I express my needs calmly and clearly in relationships. We want it to be ecological. So in NLP, we say it's got to, be ecological goal. It fits into your life. It fits into your values. It supports your nervous system, your identity. And also, is it good for me and those around me? Is it good for me and my relationships and my future? And then we want it to be realistic. So down the pipeline, you want to be making $250,000 a year in your business, but a goal that's measurable and more realistic right now is my next 5 clients come in with ease, or 5 people come to me interested in my work. I sign on 5 clients, right? So we want the big dream to be alive and charged, but we just want to be building toward it in measurable goals, right? So $250,000 a year, it's like, holy cow, that's like just a lot to think about for some. For some people, I'm sure that they're moving to like the $1 million a year. But we want to just, wherever we are in life, so we want it to be realistic for us. So if someone, they wanted $250,000 a year, it could be, my next 5 clients come in with ease, or this offer launches with grace. And with this specific measurable goal, we can also bring in a feeling that magnetizes the outcome, because when we get into a state of coherence and feel calm, confident, resourced, alive, certain, or grounded, we can actually reconnect with that feeling. So it helps us drop into that state and call in more of what we want, especially when we attach a feeling to the desired outcome. So now you have your desires and you put them through your values filter. You make sure that they're aligned to you and your soul and your core deepest truth. They're not from fear, or they're not from keeping up with the neighbors, or they're not anything else besides you. And then you put them through the criteria filter, right? Is it a positive? Is it specific and clear? Do you have sensory evidence? Is this about you, right? Not someone else's behavior. Is it ecological? Is it the right achievable size, right? It's not too overwhelming, but it also is like, kind of exciting. And it's stated in the present, and it includes that desired emotional state. So by walking myself through this, I really started to recognize, after listening to the cues of exhaustion or burnout or low motivation, I was like, what is going on here? And when I really put my desires through my filters, through my values filter, and I realized I didn't really want to talk. I don't want to talk about the protocols. I don't want to just talk about the labs. We can use those as an add-on, if you're doing the deeper healing. But I want to talk about the inner world behind the habits. Right? I desire depth and clarity and expression. And my old business model, it doesn't really hold that. Right? It's like the clients are still asking me for help and guidance, which, yes, I'm happy to offer that. But at the end of the day, it's all about guiding. I want to be a guide for you to find your own truth. And that's where I light up. After those sessions, I'm like, let's go. Like I feel alive and excited and inspired. Where if I'm putting together a gut protocol, I'm like, there's so much deeper. This person, they could benefit from short chain fatty acids, but what's going on with their inner world? So my biggest desires made this next chapter pretty obvious. And one thing also that really helped me is getting a look into my human design, really pulling back the curtain on my astrology, just understanding that as a manifester with an emotional sort of authority, that my deep stuff is, I love the emotional stuff. I love the subconscious work. I'm not here for a linear process where I'm here telling people what to do. I'm here to initiate this, beautiful experience that is going into your inner landscape. But I'm not going to do it for you. I'm happy to guide you. So when I really put my desires through my values filter, I just really realized that I don't really want to work with people who are just asking for answers and they're not willing to do the work that it takes to be your inner authority. The people that I want to work with are the people who are interested in going into the deeper landscape and getting to the root and really shedding the layers and becoming the best person they can be. I just find often with lab testing, it's like people just come for answers. I mean, I do have the occasional people who come for the answers and then they do the deeper work. Like, yes, your secretory IgA is super low and this comes from stress response. And so they're like, whoa, and they do change their lifestyle. But I kind of find that the protocols and the lab testing, that's a little bit of a mask. So anyways, this whole process has really helped me just shed these layers of what I think I should do and what I got to keep doing this because this is the linear path of that type of career. It's like, well, wait, I'm not a linear path of career. I'm Jackie Edgerly. I'm going to do what actually feels good to me. And the way I found this is using this filtration system to really understand what I need and what I can, because if you start following the stuff that you want to do, it's going to be way easier for you to do it. If you're doing something that you don't feel good about and it's not aligned with your values, it's going to start to feel like you're hitting a brick wall. So I want you to think about this. What do you want right now? Big or small? What does that desire emotionally give you? And is this desire aligned with your core values, or is it coming from fear? And do you want this because it's true or because you're trying to prove something, which would be from fear? And if you fully trusted yourself, what would you choose? Okay, so now that you've named what you want, what is the next thing that happens? It's the resistance, the fears, the doubts, the blocks, and that is what pillar 4 is, right? So when we name what we want, boom, we get the fear, we get the doubt, and we get the blocks. So this is where we meet our blocks and we actually lean into the resistance because it's actually not a problem. It's a guide of exactly how to clear what's in your way. So a lot of people are like very resistant. And if they just knew that if you just lean into your resistance, it helps remove the blocks. Literally, our resistance is what gives us the doorway to our subconscious and the wounds that are keeping us from getting to where we want to go. So the moment that you name what you want, the blocks appear. Like you'll even hear someone talking about a dream they have and then they'll say, but. And so if you catch yourself naming your desire or your dream and then you said, but, that's really great data. That's giving you what is getting in the friggin' way. So when you name what you want and then a block appears, it's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you're not capable. It's just because your subconscious is trying to keep you safe and protected. Each and every goal and dream and desire exposes you to the exact pattern that's been holding you back. And so this is where a bulk of the sort of like we could call it the work happens, where you're clearing your blocks. And this is kind of where we spend a lot of our time in Design Your Life, because this is really where we make the change. And it's important to note that your subconscious, it's wired for similar comfort environments, not like the big fulfillment, big goals. So when you want something new, the brain's like, this is totally not safe. This is totally new. It feels really unpredictable. This is scary. There's a fear here. And this is where we have these blocks. And they're also we could call them protective patterns or just like core wounds. And these get triggered when we are expanding. And these are formed between ages 0 and 7. So you can start to see some of the beliefs and the truths and the understandings that you had when your subconscious was so malleable when you were 0 to 7. They may not be serving you today. And so they do get triggered when you're expanding and you're growing and you're calling in bigger things for yourself. So something for me that's been coming up a lot with, the podcast, or even changing to more of what I want to do. It's like, ooh, stay small. This keeps you safe. Or, don't speak because you'll be judged, or don't try because you'll fail, right? These are subconscious programs that it thinks that it's protecting us, right? And so this is like, resistance is totally normal. It's just your body doing what it does to feel safe and protected and comfortable. So there's some really common blocks, right, that we can share today. So feeling this fear of failing publicly. For me, this is coming up right now. I'm like, what if I change and no one likes my stuff? Or what if I change and everyone thinks I'm nuts? Or I don't know. And then there's like the fear of being seen, the fear of being too much, the fear of outgrowing relationships, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of doing the wrong thing, right? There's fear of success. There's so many blocks. It could be just literally, I don't think I'm capable. I don't think I'm good enough, right? And blocks are not stop signs. They're actually signs that your desire is touching a core wound that's ready to be healed. And so one for me is being misunderstood. Like if I share my truth, I might be misunderstood. And I have some old core wounds of where that happened. Even, it was something that, yes, it was a core wound, and then it built and built and built and built and grew. So it's like learning that huge snowball of beliefs and truth and evidence for myself can slowly unpack itself, where me sharing myself could actually lead to me actually being understood because I'm sharing my voice. So when we're working with this pillar of removing the blocks and identifying core wounds, we really just look to, are there any limiting beliefs? Are there any parts in conflict with each other? What deep, event, or was there something that happened that created this core message in your body? It could just be like, a block around the identity that you've outgrown, or, a story that you're telling yourself, or, emotion that actually needs space to breathe and give a voice to. It could be a part of you that still is in survival mode, worrying about everyone else. So in this pillar, this clearing the stuff that's in the way, we also want to find evidence that this is possible, right? So we want to go and clear the block, and then we also want to just find evidence. So find proof that this is possible. So even for me, it was like, wow, can I please get some proof around people who go into debt and have successful businesses? And then it's like, whoa, you go and you ask ChatGPT, give me some proof here. And it's like, oh, it gives you this list of so many successful, amazing people that went into debt before they had their success, or they had their money balance into stability or whatever. And so we just need that proof that it's possible. Even I had to do proof on people moving from more functional nutrition to more subconscious stuff. I was like, whoa, has anyone else done this? And then I go to see like, oh yeah, there's that person and that person. And so it's like helps your brain say, oh, that is possible. So we want to name the block. We want to give ourselves proof that it's possible. And then we can kind of name and identify our portal to transformation and following and fulfilling our dreams and desires. And most people will meet these blocks and assume, oh, this isn't meant for me, or I should stop and I'm not ready. And that's just your default mode, say, protecting you. It's your automatic patterning saying, no, the normal, comfortable, what you were doing before is easier. But once we understand the pattern, we can clearly clear it through subconscious reprogramming, doing deep hypnosis. We can go in, and I do a lot of guided hypnosis and NLP and quantum time technique, where I facilitate a journey into the core wound. And this is a huge part of the process. And this is the part of the process that I think a lot of people jump over. And people just don't know about it, right? Quantum time technique, an amazing way to go into your subconscious mind and go to the core root of the block. And we do a lot of this in Design Your Life. I'm going to teach you guys how to do this. I'm going to give you recorded meditations and guide you through. We also do this on my Inner Landscape sessions, where I have a free monthly call. If you want to just experience this work and clear some blocks, come to the monthly gathering, it's always around the new moon. It's actually next week. If you're listening to this, it's on around the 20th. You'd have to go check because I'm not totally sure on the moment, but we go in and we go to the core wound and we see what the inner child needs. We see what you need in that moment, or we just need to see what we can learn from that event so that we can move on and move forward in the life that we want. Right? And so we learn that the block is the work. The block is the process. And once you understand this pattern, it gets really clear what we need to go heal and clear and understand. And once you clear it, everything else becomes more available. And this is just like shedding layer after layer after layer. So what are you afraid will happen if you get what you want? When you think about your big desire, what's the but behind it? What part of you is trying to protect you from growing into the best possible version of yourself and your life? And you can always ask too, is this block actually mine or is it inherited? Right? So this is where we identify what is getting in the way of your desires. And then we actually do something about it. We use subconscious reprogramming tools to go in and heal that wound. What does that inner child need? What does it need to let go of? Does it need to get out of that event? What can you learn from this event to move on and move forward? Right? This is where the subconscious work comes in, and this is how we strip away the layers that are getting in the way. So here's the truth. Once you clear the wound behind the block and you stop fighting and resisting, and the second that you stop fighting, you know exactly what to do next. And that leads to the next pillar of inspired action. So the fifth phase of this is inspired action. And that's when your inner world shifts. Your next step becomes super obvious. So we always want to lock this change, this shift into the physical world, right? We want to take inspired action through the knowing that we just accomplished, through the healing that just took place, right? We need to lock it into reality. So this could be sending an email. This could be having an honest conversation where you actually share your deepest truth. This could be clearing out your space. This could be setting a boundary. It could be saying yes or no, or, buying a new camera because you know that you've always wanted to be a photographer. It could be speaking up. It could be showing up to something specifically. And inspired action is usually kind of small, but it's these small steps that build and build and build to build this confidence and this truth within you. So let's say you were working on starting a business and you were feeling like you were incapable. And we went in and we went to the core wound and we did some healing and we, got what we needed and we worked your way out of there with positive learnings. And then at the end, we'd be like, okay, great. Now knowing that you are capable, what is one thing that you could do? What is one move that you could do that would align with this new belief, this new knowing that you are capable? And then we do that, right? So we just slowly do these little action steps that slowly take us towards that GPS. And one example for this is I didn't start a podcast because I was pushing and going and going. It's because I worked on this deep belief that my voice didn't matter. And seriously, when I started working on my voice does matter, and it's important for me to share and stand up for what I believe in, that's the shift that really made me feel comfortable and confident to start a podcast. And this whole experience on the podcast, and thank you so much for being here and listening and just being on this journey with me. It's so fun when I run into people and they're like, hey, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm like, what? That's so cool that we have communication through headphones. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. But I didn't get to this podcast by pushing harder and doing podcast courses. No, I got here because I used to think that my voice didn't matter. And now I know that it's important for me to stand up for what I believe in and to share my gifts with the world. So inspired action is like a byproduct of healing and doing the inner work. It's not hustling or doing more. It's like, oh no, what is the aligned action I can take that will follow the healing that needs to take place with the desires that I have in mind? So when you start to move towards what you want, you're going to feel things, right? You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel doubt. You're going to see old stories come up. You're going to have triggers and emotional spikes. This is good. And this leads us into the last pillar where we learn from our reactions. So pillar number 6 is integrating the shift. It's the phase where the inner work becomes your lived reality. And this is where two things happen. You actually receive or achieve what you've been calling in, whether it's that desire or the pivot or the new level, and you begin to stabilize within the identity required to hold that desire or the pivot. And honestly, this phase often is super uncomfortable. And to be really transparent, I'm in it right now. And I can tell you it's super uncomfortable because we're stepping into new terrain and our nervous system is just learning how to feel safe at this level that we've potentially never held before. So discomfort here doesn't mean that you are off track or you're doing the wrong thing. It just means that you are in expansion. You are in transition. And this is where we consciously maintain our new baseline. So it's not about forcing anything. It's about continuing the momentum forward from this new place and allowing our system to adjust and deepen into it. And here our nervous system will adapt and our body will calibrate and our choices will begin to match this new version of ourselves. And this is where the reactions become our guidance system. So if you get activated or wobbly or your old patterns show up, it doesn't mean that you're slipping. It means that you are integrating. So you've been taking the inspired action, you're stepping into your new identity, you're stepping into that desire, and now the universe is plopping the perfect trigger right in front of you so that you can move on and move forward and go to that core wound that'll help you move on. Right? And so triggers aren't like a bad thing. They're not a setback. They're signs that you are working on your old conditioning. And if you really pause and say, what can I learn from this? What is the core message here? And sometimes it takes a minute for just the answers to come back. Like sometimes you'll ask the question and then, the next day you're like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. So these aren't setbacks. They just show you where you are still running on subconscious patterns that are no longer matching your future self. So this is the pillar where you create your new life. You feel the trigger, you regulate and you rewire and you use that as data, right? And a lot of people will run away from it. There's so much avoidance happening. But if we can step forward, we will find clarity and truth and alignment. And this is exactly how we expand ourselves. This is how we become more deserving and self-loving and capable and feel more confident. And this is how you align with your future self. So just think about a recent reaction, whether you got really angry or irritated, or maybe you were really jealous, or you had just like this very strong emotional burst of sadness. And we have two choices. We can either lean into it and look at it and learn from it and grow and evolve, because these are a doorway into your evolution, or we can see the resistance, turn around and pretend it didn't happen. So this last pillar is so important, and it's such a heart of how to continue forward, right? Designing your life isn't about forcing or hustling or becoming a different person. It's about coming back to yourself and your nervous system and your values and your desires and your subconscious blocks and patterns, and then learning to stay the course and move through the world from a grounded, regulated, aligned place that has curiosity, right? And as you take this aligned action towards what you want, your emotional triggers and your reactions and your comparison, all of that is just feedback. It's not evidence that you're off track, but it's evidence that you are growing. And your inner landscape is always there to communicate with you. So here we are, and in this podcast, we are going to explore all of that, the messiness, the beautiful, the honest process of redesigning your life from the inside out. Your patterns, your desires, your nervous system, your identity, all the pieces that we were never taught to tend to. And I have found so much love and compassion for myself, and such as the deeper I go into this work, it's like I'm more creative, I'm more expansive, I have more just like peace with the world. I just feel like such like this huge weight has come off me, and now I can actually like walk through life in a calm state where I can tap into my deeper desires and be like, hey, actually, yeah, let's follow that thing. Okay, so let's bring it all together now and just summarize what are the 6 pillars of a pivot. 1, we have awareness, pausing, regulating the nervous system. 2, we divine our truth through our values. 3, we clarify what we want. We just write down what our desires actually are, big and small. 4, we identify the blocks and we clear them. 5, we take that inspired action, that aligned action. And 6, we integrate the shift. We help stay the course by looking at what our triggers are, looking at what our reactions are, and using those as tools and access points for us to continually work on the stuff that is getting in the way, that is triggering for us. So if anything in this episode resonated with you, or if you're in a season of change or just feeling the call or the pull to reconnect with yourself, you are so welcome here, and you are so welcome in my monthly gatherings, where if you want to start this work in a gentle, supported space with no expectation, it's just pay what you can. We have these sessions to just give you a place to begin and dip your toes in and see what it feels like and see what you get out of it. I've had a really great feedback just from the last 6 months where we're doing this. And we just keep showing up and we keep doing the thing and we get familiar with what's going on with our inner landscape. Every month we slow down, we tune in. It's always around the new moon. And then in early 2026, I'll be opening up my first Design Your Life program, where it's 6-week guided journey where we're walking through all these pillars together, right? We're going to do everything we talked about today so that you have a clear map of where you're headed, right? We are literally designing your life. It's so fun. And if you don't put intention into it, it's just not going to happen. So I'm super excited to put this all into a framework for 6 to 10 people. That's going to be the size of the first group, just because I want to test it out and see how we go. But I've been doing it on myself. I'm working with people one-on-one, and it's really been super awesome, super fun. So if that calls to you, you can join the waitlist or just reach out to me and you can grab a spot. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for walking with me in this path, this wild existence that we have, where we are in a time of shedding the old layers and inviting the new to come through. So welcome to your inner landscape. This is our place, our community to return to center, get familiar with our inner landscape, and a place where we can design a life that feels like your inner truth. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you that is on here, and I will see you in a couple weeks' time.